Today we are talking about how the truth about humanity is about to be exposed. We've been talking a lot lately about the end of the world and transitions and changing, and this is pertinent to that because with all of that comes an awakening and a lifting of a veil. A veil has been placed over humanity, keeping humanity in the dark as to the truth about themselves, the truth about what humanity actually is and what it is on an individual level, but as a collective level as well. And this impedes our process. It impedes your process. It makes your life worse. It makes my life worse. It makes all our lives worse because it is limiting our power. Just like in the Gnostic myth, Yaldabaoth has trapped a shard of divine light into material bodies to power his divine creation. So this world of capitalism and materialism and nihilism has trapped us within a veil that keeps us from knowing what we truly are and stepping into our true power and actualizing and stepping into. But this is about to change. This is all about to change because there are so many changes, and particularly with the development of technology is really facilitating this. Because right now, I mean, we live in a meaningless life. A meaningless world, a purposeless world. There's no meaning, there's no purpose. It's about watching Netflix, eating junk food, and being distracted while all these atrocities around the world are happening. I mean, think right now. If you're watching this live right now, you can think of things happening all around the world that are just absolutely beyond imagining horrible things. If you're watching a replay of this, even let's say years in the future, it's still going to be occurring. Terrible things are going to be happening all around the world. And there only exists distractions to distract you from what you are, what we are, what humanity is, and what's occurring in the world, and this, this anticipation of the end of the world, and all of that. Now, this is really important to understand for you to be able to understand this lifting of this veil and what you truly are, and to actualize your potential in your life, and not just you in your life, but all of our lives together as a collective. We've been stripped of purpose and meaning, but this veil over Earth is about to be lifted through the connectivity that we are making, and we can even begin to see glimpses of this connectivity that we are making as we begin to shine light. See, this veil of darkness is something that is about to be lifted through us. It is through us that it is going to be lifted. And I'm going to be telling you exactly how we can lift this veil of darkness. And because it's up to us, and it's about what we're doing here to be able to illuminate this world and lift this darkening veil through our actions, the actions that I take, the actions that we take, the actions that you watching this video can take, the actions that some people around the world are beginning to take. But it requires our collective effort, our collective actualization, our collective work. Now, I want to bring up real quick to kind of take a look at this article written on medium.com. We take a look at them from time to time, and particularly by Knowledge Collective. I really enjoy the articles that Knowledge Collective writes. Seems like a very promising mind. I enjoy what they write, and we're going to take a look at some of their thoughts here. Now, they don't always get everything right, but I won't always want to say, even though I may not agree with everything, I'm not bashing this person. I think this person is on a very good path, and I enjoy what they write. So it starts by saying that the veil around the human collective is lifting, and that's absolutely true. And as our individual and collective veil opens, energies and forms of experience flow in and spread themselves into this dimension. We have this nice photo here overlaid with "it is finally happening." Very dramatic, yet very true. And is this a paintbrush or a pen? Whatever it is, I like this image very much. It looks like a pen or a paintbrush, and you can see that I like this photo because I talk very much about how what we do is the earth is our canvas to create. It's neither evil nor bad. Like the Gnostics, we talk a lot about Gnosticism. The Gnostics looked at the world as being evil and hell. If you cover up this sort of light side of it and just look at this dark, fiery side, that's how Gnostics viewed the world, as an evil prison, a hellish world that we have been trapped in that we need to escape from. But you can see this depiction here as the artist takes the pen or the pencil or the colored pencil or the paintbrush or whatever it is, they begin creating a new world with the flames being dispersed. And that is the power that we have. The power that we have is to transform the world and create the world, not to run away and escape. And that is one of the key things to understand, that so many New Age systems, so many occult systems, so many Eastern religions, so many spiritual systems make this mistake. For them, it's about escaping, reaching nirvana, ending the cycle of incarnation. We aren't here to escape. We're gods. Gods don't run away. Gods don't escape. They create, they transform, they change. So are you going to be one of those people who are trying to escape, or are you going to be a God who creates our kingdom here and now? So that's very important to understand. I'm getting a little bit off topic though, but this is important to understand with regard to this veil that envelops humanity, envelops the world, obscuring what we are, obscuring our truth, obscuring our very birthright and our very nature. Because do you really think that we came to this place to eat junk food and watch Netflix and work a 9-to-5 job? And no, that is not our purpose and our meaning and our reason for being here. And we're going to see that this veil is what keeps humanity in this darkened state that sort of convinces them that that is the truth and the path that they must follow, when that is absolutely not the case. So let's see here. I always need to take a look at my notes so that I don't get off topic, because yes, okay. So it continues here. We are living in a time of immense transformation as the veil around the human collective is beginning to lift. Now, as our individual and collective consciousness expands, we are being presented with new opportunities for growth, healing, and connection. Today, we will explore the implications of an open and expanded consciousness and what it means for humanity. Let us uncover the potential that lies beyond the veil of our collective unconscious. Now, though this is an interesting article, like I said, I like this individual, I like what they write. I want to fill some things in because it's a little vague here, such as opportunities for growth, healing, and connection, etc. And yes, while there is certainly opportunities for growth, healing, and connection, etc., it's important to understand where we're headed and what we're doing. So in truth, we've been told through capitalism, through scientific materialism, that we're worthless, that we're nothing, that we're specks on a tiny planet in a tiny universe, and that we don't matter. All we're good for is to be workers and consumers and soldiers. That's it. And or if you're someone who gives birth, a birther. That's all they want. They want you to procreate, they want you to work, they want you to consume, and they want you to fight. That's it. You are nothing more to them than these cogs in the capitalist materialist machine. And furthermore, you're given no meaning and no purpose, because the prevailing paradigm of science says as soon as you die, that's it, you're gone, you're worthless, you're nothing. So might as well just do as much eating and fucking and whatever and then die. There's nothing wrong with eating and fucking. Those are great things to do. But there is a deep meaning and purpose to life that is being obscured from us. And this is why the world is in such chaos and turmoil, because it has no idea what it is, where it is, and why it's here. So what the truth is that, of course, we are not these avatars. We are not these bodies as materialism would want it to seem. We are beings of frequency, beings of mind. We are non-local entities. And these avatars are just vehicles that allow us to experience a localized world. That's why I much prefer not using incarnation and reincarnation, but localization and relocalization, because it much more captures what is actually going on. Localization is the ability to be in an avatar that allows one to experience a localized world, a world of difference, a world of change, a world of there is a thing here rather than over here. Localization, you can remember what it means by seeing that it's similar to the word location, localization, location. It's a location-based reality, rather than if you're in a realm of pure mind, it's not based on location, it's all mind. Now, we are eternal minds that localize into these bodies. We are beings of frequency. Now, what is the point? Why are we here? Why are we on Earth? What is the truth about humanity? Now, you see, all of this has been obscured, and we have to remember that there is a truth both on an individual level and on a collective level. On an individual level, we are individual minds, individual beings of frequency, but we are also all connected together into one system. If you look at frequencies, which are waves, and how waves work, waves ripple and affect everything around them. We are all rippling waves that affect one another, intrinsically linked together. And because of this, we are in a system where we form one network. We form a network. So we are individual minds, individual beings of frequency that form a network. You can think of this in terms of sort of like a neural network, but this is a mental neural network where each of one of us are nodes, nodal points in those in that network. And because of this, we have to understand, hold on, let me just type something in here. Perfect. Okay. So as I was saying, the reason why that this is important to understand is because humanity has a much bigger destiny and a much better course of evolution. So I've talked about this before in my video talking about the end of the world, how humanity goes through 3 stages: the survival stage, the planetary civilization stage, and then the planetary independence stage. We talked a lot about that, particularly though the first 2 stages, survival and planetary civilization. If you want to know more about that, watch my video on the real reason it feels like the world is ending. But what I didn't talk about too much was the fact that we are evolving into a collective consciousness. We are evolving into a sub-network mind. And this is facilitated. The structure is already there. The structure and the particular organs necessary for us to become this collective entity already exist. The structure, the structuring, the foundation, the framework, the network to facilitate that already exists in the form of the internet and social media, and our individual organs for accessing and connecting that already exist in the form of smartphones. These are new technological organs. They give us a new sense. They allow us to see through the minds and the eyes, see through the eyes and hear through the ears of the collective, through live streams and stories and updates, through social media. It allows us to upload our own experience to the collective. It's a storehouse of knowledge, as we can access knowledge in the collective mind of humanity through different websites, through different blogs, through different videos, through different things like this. So this is important to understand, to really look back, stop, and realize, because humans get so caught up in the time that they're born in, that they become very, very trapped in it. You know, they're very, it's like being in a really zoomed in piece of it. If you have a picture and you zoom in really far into one piece of the picture, you're not really going to think like, oh, well, maybe it's a picture of a flower. And you think that, well, it's all about a flower, but then you zoom out and you realize it's something completely different. Maybe there's like a huge battlefield going on with dragons and knights, and there's a little flower in the corner, but you were just so zoomed in, you didn't realize all this other stuff was going on. That's just a kind of a metaphor to say, if you're so focused, laser focused on just a little piece of something, it's easy to lose sight that there's so much more going on. And I'm saying that humans get really focused on the particular time and the place and the narratives that they've built for themselves. What I mean by that is, if you look at technology and you look at social media and you look at the internet, social media, technology, and the internet are its evolution. People seem to think that there's this big difference between technology and biology, biological evolution versus technological machinery. But technology just derives from nature, or rather, what I mean to say is people seem to think that there is a big difference between technology and nature. Well, technology is just developed by humans that have manipulated nature. And you can see things that occur like this in, you know, bees that create structures like honeycombs, beavers that create dams. I'm sure you can, I'm just off the top of my head, I'm sure you can think of animals that have created structures out of nature, yet those things are still considered nature. Honeycombs are still considered nature, etc. Well, we as human beings manipulate nature just on a much higher level to create technology, but technology is still very much derived from nature, and we're creating these structures. So there is not such a huge demarcation from technology and nature that people really like to make. What technology is human-directed structures, human-directed, and we can think of it as human-directed evolution as well, because people always think in terms of biology as being evolution. Well, or biological evolution. Well, we have technological evolution, and we're getting to the point where humanity is, in terms of biological evolution, is happening so slow our bodies are not going to evolve via biological evolution. Our avatars are not going to evolve via biological evolution. Our avatars will be purposefully evolved and constructed by us through technology, whether that is through augmentation or whether that is through the creation of entirely new avatars, whether they are virtual reality avatars or mixed avatars or robotic avatars, whatever they are the next iteration of us, of avatars, won't be something that's biologically evolved. It will be directed consciously by us in the creation of these new avatars. And this is already happening, like I said, with the smartphone. Now, this might not be integrated into us, but you can imagine that when you leave, if you go to work or something and you leave your smartphone at home, it seems like you left a piece of you. It seems like there's a piece of you missing. And think about how much disconnected you are now from reality. It's like an entire sense has been taken from you. You're walking around blind. Like, think about how difficult it is if one were born blind to go through the world. Like, that's really hard. There's so many things that people would have to struggle with and things that people would have to overcome to go through reality, through life being blind. Well, imagine for some reason someone was not allowed to use the internet, smartphone, or social media. Like, they weren't able to do that, which was the case, like 20, 25 years ago. I don't know how long it's been before social media. It's been somewhere close around there. So that was the time. So imagine that person would be extremely handicapped. That person would have a much, much, much harder time in life than the average person, being stripped of these objects. And the reason why that I'm talking about this is because this is an important idea to with regard to what humanity is. And stick with me here, because this is important. And I really want to get if some of this stuff doesn't make sense yet, that's okay. The dots will connect. And the thing that I really trying to get across, I think sometimes people get disappointed because they expect me to go like, oh, guess what? We're all secret reptilian aliens from the planet Stratatui. And they get disappointed when I don't say that. But the thing that is true is so much more interesting, so much more advanced, so much more mind-blowing, but it just takes a while to really have all the pieces fit in. The truth of it is way more interesting than just like, oh, well, we are aliens or something like that. The truth is that we are these minds on this planet for synchronization to form a new level of being, a new level of evolution, and this is happening in the form of setting up structures, facilitating a collective. Now, you can see this beginning when we have social media, and we have and this is important to how we're going to lift the veil, because it's up to us to make these connections and lift the veil. And this is a veil of ignorance and darkness. This is a veil of ignorance as to what you are. It's a veil of ignorance as to what we are, what humanity is, what the earth is, what we're all doing here. There's the veil of ignorance that obscures the world and obscures our daily activities and results in so much death, destruction, and turmoil, hatred, homophobia, sexism, all that occurs because of this veil of ignorance. And it's up to us to lift this. And the reason why this is important is because I'm talking about the internet and social media as being a structure that connects us all together. And you can see the spread of information. How do you change the world? How do you control the world? Through controlling the information. That's why so many billionaires are becoming really, really interested in controlling the narrative by controlling social media sites, because they want to control the flow of information. He who controls the information, or they who control the flow of information, will control the world. It's ultimately not about money. If money can help control the information, then good, but it'll be a means to an end. It's really about the flow of information. That's what it's about, the flow of information. That is critical. With this structure exists, and this is important. This structure of the internet, this structure of social media exists, and every single one of us, well, those who are able to, are outfitted with a new technological organ that allows us to access this structure and to both input and output. We are both able to access and receive data from this structure, and also input our own data, and we are both able to hear and see through the collective, as well as the collective is able to see and hear through our ears and our eyes. When you take selfies, do live streams, do what I'm doing right now, this is all part of it. And it's important to realize that people think, oh, it's just social media. Like, this is just about selling herbal supplements and taking selfies and playing, let's play YouTube video games. And that happens, yes, that does happen, but there is something much more profound going on behind the scenes. It's sort of the DNA or the nerves, the neural system of us as a subnetwork mind is being generated and created through this structure. And so we're all outfitted with these technological organs. We're all outfitted within this structure, and this structure is a flow of information. It is what facilitates that flow of information globally, a global flow of information. And you can see where this is becoming important and becoming critical with regard to the flow of information, knowledge, and a veil of ignorance, people who want to control this flow of information, because you can get information extremely quickly. You can see what's happening around the world almost live, rather than waiting for a few weeks for some blurry black and white photo from the newspaper written by some biased journalist, rather than actually seeing what's occurring in almost real time all around the world. We're having an extremely new sense of connectivity. And that's how we're being able to develop that collective consciousness. I won't get into that too much because we talked about in the other video I did on the real reason why it feels like the world is ending. But this connectivity is allowing us to develop a new sense of collectivity. It's allowing us to develop an analog all as we realize we live in an interconnected system and a holistic system. So we live in a reality where we don't notice that things are connected inherently because our minds are not designed rather, but have evolved to allow us to survive. And therefore our minds are really engaged in linearity. They're engaged in sequencing. They're engaged in partitioning. They are engaged into putting things in boxes, applying names and labels, and all this for a pragmatic purpose. So, for example, we go around and we look at things like cups and tables and trees and chairs, and we put them in nice little separate boxes. Cups are these things, boxes are these things, chairs are these things. Cup is called a cup. It is for this. A cup is not a chair. And so you see, it's all about our pragmatic function that we use to get around in the world is all about chopping things up, applying labels to things, putting things into boxes. Now, that is extremely helpful for a pragmatic survival purpose. It is the opposite of how reality actually is. For example, you give something a name, like you say, hey, this is a cup. You've applied a label, a word that is static and unchanging. That word doesn't change. It's cup. This object is constantly changing. Philosophically speaking, it's constantly becoming. It is not mere being. It is a system of frequencies that are constantly in motion, constantly changing, constantly transforming. So you have given a static label to a thing that is constantly changing, constantly transforming, constantly evolving, and is in constant flux and constant motion. Not only that, but you have separated it out from its environment when that is not the case. It is not separate from its environment. It is constantly interacting and bleeding into its environment constantly. This is just we could say like a certain packet of frequency that has been localized to this point, but is not completely confined to this point. It still interacts with, the air molecules around it, the water molecules in the cup, my hand that holds it. Nothing is what these words and labels we give to them. Everything is a structure of transforming frequency that interacts with everything else. They are all transforming structures that interact with everything else. So the reason why this is relevant is to understand that our experience predominantly in the world has been one of pieces, separateness, with labels, whereas now we're stepping into a new form of consciousness where we are not simply understanding that we are separate, but we are connected. And structures like the internet is facilitating this. So we have to talk about how we can lift this veil. And we can lift this veil by using this structure. Now, real quick, I want to emphasize this again because I think some people perhaps may perhaps miss the importance of when I talk about a subnetwork mind and what that really is. The internet social media in general and what will come after that. I'm sure we will have much more superior forms of connectivity in the future, perhaps the metaverse or perhaps it's something else, but we will have superior forms of connectivity in the future, and they're just going to get better and better, and we'll become more and more and more connected. Now, this is the structure, this is a framework of a subnetwork mind. A subnetwork mind is a network mind made of us, every single one of us as nodes, and this subnetwork mind gains self-awareness of itself when we realize that that is what we are. It is not something that is separate from us. It is something that is composed of us. We are it, and when we realize that we are it, it awakens through us as we realize that we are all part of that and form that and are that. And this is important as we need at least some understanding of this to form a planetary civilization. And because a planetary civilization requires an understanding of connectivity and holism, but especially to achieve planetary independence. And planetary independence is achieved when we leave Earth behind. And when I say when we leave Earth behind, we're not going to get into spaceships and fly away. We're not going to go float up in the sky and leave our clothes behind and be with Jesus. That's not what's going to happen. When we leave Earth behind, what that means is we have achieved, through our own synchronicity, consciousness, and technology, the ability to create our own domain that's no longer dependent upon the physical world or the holos. Sort of imagine it like us creating our own universe. Not within this universe, that's impossible, but think of it like switching channels in a television or changing programs in the TV and on Netflix or something. Right now, we are tuned into this particular television program, this particular video, this particular show or whatever, which is the show of all of the universe as we know it. But when we develop consciously, technologically, as a collective, we will develop the ability to tune, which means to tune into different frequency domains, like different channels, and have access to these different domains. And not only that, but once we are sufficiently developed in understanding and how that works, we will be able to create our own collective frequency domain, essentially creating our own channel, which is not reliant on any other channels, which is not reliant on this public channel. This is a public channel. This is the public channel. Your own inner dream world, that's the private channel. And then we can create our own collective, collaborative collective channel once we establish that. So that's this though, we're talking about a long time in the future, a long time what's coming. Humanity really has to understand what it is, where it is, why it's here to even begin to get to that point. But it's important because we're at a really pivotal moment. So and the reason why that we can transform the world when we have this, we have to talk about how we can do this and then what it'll affect. But there was this quote by Idris Shah that was shared in the live stream today that said, I forget who shared it, so I apologize. Was it Katrina Gatsby? It might have been. It said, people in this civilization are starving in the middle of plenty. This is a civilization that is going down, not because it hasn't got the knowledge that would save it, but because nobody will use the knowledge. And here's the thing. We have enough resources to utterly transform this world. We have enough food to feed the hungry. We have enough to be able to create an amazing place, an amazing experience, an amazing system of growth. But we don't, because humanity is clouded in darkness and ignorance as to what they are, and so use their resources selfishly and hostilely. So all our resources, we pour into defense, we pour into the military, we pour into weapons of mass destruction. We disproportionately have billionaires that are constantly using their money for, I mean, I'm blanket statements, using blanket statements, but they very often their actions are very, very degrading to humanity. So our resources are not being used correctly. Our knowledge is not being used correctly, and this is why we live in such a terrible world. But the important thing to understand is that we can change this. And how can we change this? We can change this very rapidly. The reason why that we can change this very rapidly is because we have this network of information set up. We have this network of information set up. And so if we make this information that allows humanity to raise their consciousness go viral or seen by many, many people, it can make a lot of change very fast. Because if you look at what I'm doing, I mean, I reach quite a lot of people. Now, there's a lot more that could be reached. I'm not the most popular channel on YouTube or whatever, but I have a decent amount of subscribers. I have a decent amount of following on Facebook, on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok, or whatever. But my point is that this is seeding the information. This information is being seeded into the human collective unconscious. It's being inserted into the framework of that network mind. It's being, you can think of it, we have this structure, we have this network mind, we have this subnetwork mind that is being formed. When I create videos, that is about seeding that information into the collective to be able to be integrated and downloaded by other people. Now, when we have more people doing this, we need more people doing this. That's why it's great when we have awesome channels like Jan's channel and the channel that Susan and Philip and everyone works on. These channels for spreading awareness and spreading consciousness are important. And as more people develop in their consciousness, the more people who develop in their awareness of what reality is, and take the steps to utilize this network, utilize this framework in the creation of information to spread throughout the system, that is how we will change the world. It's about using this mental structure that exists in the form of social media, social networks, and the internet, and seeding information into it that will wake people up. Like, imagine if people, if this, I make these videos about consciousness, and they're some of my videos have 1 million views, some of my videos have 500,000 views somehow. It's not like 1 billion or anything like that, but it's quite a lot. It's decent. It's not just like a couple hundred. It's decent. And I'm not saying that to brag. I'm saying that to get to the point where information with regard that can have the potential to be a catalyst to kickstart consciousness can be spread. And the more that we have that spread, imagine people who are, watching their YouTube channels or on TikTok or whatever, and every now and then some video by some creator, when we have more conscious creators, pops up about a certain element of consciousness or whatever. And at first someone might be like, oh, whatever, that's weird. But as more and more happen and it keeps hitting you and talking about different things, pretty soon people are going to start getting bombarded by lessons and catalysts that are going to start to get the wheels turning. And the more people who start to get the wheels turning, the more people who eventually create more information to put in the network as well. We can eventually have an exponential explosion of growth, because we'll have information getting out there. That information will help people evolve, and those people who evolve will be able to create more information to put information out there. That's why it's so important that's why, it's not just about self-actualization, but helping others actualize as well. Now, you want to do your work to a certain standard, because I do see some people who have no idea really what it means to have access to a higher consciousness. They just get it on a very low level, and they don't really, and anyway, they end up putting out misinformation or bad information or information that's wrong or information that's not displayed well. And so I'm not saying like, oh, go out there and do it right now. It's a process. It's going to take a while. And the best thing that one can do right now is to work on your knowledge and your growth and your understanding. Because it's kind of like, if you want to go run and win a race, don't go run in the Olympics right now. You're going to crash and burn. You need to start that training process of running every day and eating right and all that. And so that's what it comes down to, this sort of thing. It's about training. It's about understanding. It's about growing your own knowledge, growing your own ability to think critically, growing your own ability to intuitively understand the world structured through reason. All this sort of stuff is really important to do. Now, I'm going to, as always, I have gone off quite a bit. I feel like there was a lot more points that I wanted to get to with regard to this article. So let me go through it real fast. So it says, and I hope that what I have said will now put this into a little more context, because I have given definition. So it says the veil around the human collective is lifting. Now, this veil around the human collective that's lifting, this must be lifted through us and our actions. We can't think of it as like, oh, this thing that's just gonna happen by itself. It's because of us that this is happening. It's because of people who spread information. It's because of actions that are being taken around the world. It's about people fighting for other people's rights. All this kind of stuff is what contributes. We're living in a time of great transformation as we move away from traditional forms of thought and action to more expansive and inclusive ways of being. With this shift, many new energies and forms of experience have begun to flow into our lives. As the veil lifts, our awareness expands and we become more aware of the interconnectedness of all life. And you see that that is true. And what I'm trying to do is just bring it into a more defined area. Yes, we become more aware of the interconnectedness of life. Absolutely. How are we doing this? Well, through a lot of different ways. I mean, a lot of people facilitate this through meditation and psychedelics. Remember, don't do anything dangerous or illegal. But on a vast scale, on a human scale, without talking about that sort of thing, the social media and the interconnectedness that comes with that is really helping people to realize that there is an interconnectedness to humanity. And it's not just a vague interconnectedness, it is a specific interconnectedness of us as eternal minds synchronizing and forming a subnetwork mind. That is the purpose of a planet. A planet exists to have individual minds localize onto that planet, and then it forces them to work together and form a collective, or else they will die through not being able to come together to face things like perhaps global pandemics or other cataclysmic events, global warming or whatever, or more importantly, things like threats of nuclear war. This requires humanity to come together to be able to thwart these cataclysms. A planet forces humanity to evolve into that subnetwork mind or collapse and die and start again. That's what a plant is. A plant is a seed, and the sprout is a planetary civilization, and the bloom is subnetwork mind and planetary independence. So we can begin to, by tapping into the collective consciousness, we can begin to understand our place in the larger scheme of things and get a better understanding of how our thoughts and actions affects others on a global level. And that's absolutely right. That's what we're talking about here. Just again, I like to bring it into a more like actually actionable, clearly rather than being a little vague, which is fine. I'm not knocking this. But I'm just saying, for my purposes, taking this and showing how this can be achieved through specific actionable items, such as creating viral content as catalysts to transform humanity. Like that's just one example. Through collective consciousness, we can also access the power of our collective wisdom. The wisdom is what allows us to create solutions and innovations that would otherwise be impossible. It also serves as a reminder of our shared humanity and the potential for global unity in the face of adversity. So many important things with regard to this point. When we understand what we are, that we're beings of frequency, that this is not a material reality, that it's a mental reality, that we're not disconnected, but we are connected. Think of all the advancements that we can make in medicine, in science, in technology. Now, I don't know about you, but whenever I go into a healthcare system, I feel like I'm meat on a chopping block. Like doctors treat you like a car that just needs replacement parts. They don't treat you like an actual subjective entity, a human being. There are some good doctors out there, but I think a lot of you can get that impression. Or if you don't have the money for it, you're just fucked. I can't tell you how upsetting it is when I see people who tell me that friends or family members have this terminal illness and they can't afford anything, and so they're just gonna die, which is horrible and terrible. But this is why a new form of consciousness is required to create a new society. It truly is. So we need those pioneering minds for a new world. We don't need to have people like, oh man, we have to have the entire world change. No, like we don't need to have every single person reach hyper awareness, but we need pioneering minds who will lead humanity into a bright new future to achieve hyper awareness. Those are the minds that we need to achieve hyper awareness. As more people become aware of the connection to the collective unconscious, they're able to access the power of love and compassion. Love and compassion is very important, and I want to emphasize its importance. Now, I also want to emphasize the importance of logic and reason. Logic and reason is very important, and there's this sort of, this dichotomy doesn't need to be adversarial. There's people who are like, love and compassion versus logic and reason. Like, logic and reason is evil. And love and compassion is good. They both can be good. They both can be bad. Both of them. Remember, this is not a reality of separateness. All of these functions serve a place. We need empathy. We need love. We need compassion. But in addition to empathy and love and compassion, we need reason. We need logic as well. all of these things weave together so that we can create a structured reality that includes empathy, that includes love, and includes compassion. I've met some people who are super compassionate and loving, but they don't know what the fuck is going on, and they end up making all kinds of mistakes, and their life is a disaster because they have no reason and logic. Alternatively, I know some people who are very logical on paper, but have no empathy, no love and compassion, and are just terrible people. And and they may consider themselves, these individuals that I have met, to be logical, but it's funny because they're not, because logic incorporates love, empathy, and compassion. And that's why those who are rational and logical should not condemn love and compassion, and those who are loving and compassion and empathetic should not condemn reason and logic. Everything works together, guys. Like, it's everyone is in a fight. It's like everyone is a shard of the whole, but they think that the other shards are wrong. It's not. There's just a piece to a puzzle. Certain puzzles go in certain places. They're not enemies. They're not opposed to each other. It's just like reason, intuition, emotions, and senses. These are all necessary things. They're all necessary. It's not one of these things is. Intuition is what plugs us into the source and gives us information to work with. Reason is what allows us to structure and filter that information into a rational and cohesive pattern. Emotion is what allows us to experience the joys of reality. Senses are what allows us to navigate the localized holos domain and receive information for our navigation. It's not about disregarding these things. It's about understanding the proper place, not saying. So that's another thing to really. So many people are on one side or the other as though they are enemies. So the veil around the human collective is continuing to lift. It's up to us to choose how we will use this energy. We have the power to create a brighter future through small acts of love and compassion in our day-to-day lives. And yes, if you want to make small acts of love and compassion in your day-to-day lives, fantastic, fabulous, please do. We need more love. We need more compassion. This is a very cold, hard world. But put the sights a little higher. If we want to change the world, we need to get information as catalysts that are able to have humanity to step into a new consciousness, so we can have those pioneers develop, so we can build a new world. Small acts of love and kindness are great. Please do them. But simply small acts of love and kindness aren't going to change the world. It's not. Small acts of love and kindness are great, and they're beautiful, and they're wonderful. Please do them. But that is not going to be what is going to change. You can do small acts of kindness, of love and compassion all day long, and the billionaire elites are still going to trample all over you and put the homeless on the street, and et cetera, et cetera. So love and compassion, super important. Please do it, but also be smart and think about how we can take actionable steps to transform the world, such as creating catalysts of consciousness to raise the consciousness of humanity. Taking time to heal yourself will help you contribute to making the world a better place. Absolutely. Healing yourself, making sure that you're psychologically healthy, that you're physically healthy, and that you are working on yourself, developing your abilities, developing your skill set, developing your own consciousness. With an open mind, we are able to connect with others despite any barriers and build a future that is more positive for us all. True. And there is so much potential in coming together as one global family united by love and compassion. Yes, but just always, love and compassion is great, but always remember reason and logic and intuition and all that also has to be in there as well. Like, so much emphasis is put on love and compassion, and we need love and compassion, but there's more to it than just that. Those are important pieces, but there's more pieces to it as well. And this coming together as a global family is what we talk about in a planetary civilization, and which is facilitated by that structure of a subnetwork mind. So I guess what I'm trying to do here is say that articles like this, which is a great article, I like it a lot, and I like the author, are good but vague, and sometimes not being as detailed in what truly needs to occur for powerful change and success. And again, I'm not knocking this. I'm glad that these articles exist. And stuff like this, right? Like these articles is an example of a catalyst of consciousness, because this is going to help someone. This is going to help somebody. That's awesome. That's great. We need more things like this. It doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to be perfect. We just need to get the ball rolling. And for an individual like this to be putting in their time and effort to make articles like that, I applaud them. And I want to see more things like that, more people doing stuff like that. That's great. And it just essentially goes on that together we can make a difference, and the potential is beyond what we could ever imagine, and it begins with each of us. And that's absolutely true. This thing that we want to do with transforming the world and what humanity actually is like I said, humanity, the truth about what humanity is, the fact that we are not bodies, we are eternal minds, beings of frequency, and that we are not individuals separate, but in addition to being individuals, that we are a collective, that we are a one. This is what is being obscured by the veil of ignorance. And we can lift that veil by injecting luminous information as consciousness catalysts throughout social media, throughout any way of getting information, plugging information into that collective consciousness. It's just another way of thinking. It's a higher way of thinking. Realize that it's not just us, posting an update on social media. We are engaged in a war of a mind with these technological organs that allow us to be plugged into a forming subnetwork mind that allows us to create acts of manifestation through our willful creations of catalysts submitted into the network that will allow those who encounter it to increase their consciousness. Like, it's about realize you don't live in this mundane world. This world has made everything seem really mundane. Like, oh, this is a world of Netflix and cheeseburgers and status updates and selfies. No, realize that you are a conscious creator, a divine entity with the power to manifest by utilizing the powers that you have to affect the collective by creating catalysts of consciousness. Like, your mindset is so important. Because if you think that you're little and can't do anything, then you will always be little and you won't be able to do anything. But if you know that you are a creator and that you are divine and you are potentially all powerful and you can transform the world, then you will be able to do so as long as you actually put in the effort to do so as well. And each and every one of us who wants to make a difference in this world and create that world, our kingdom, our creative, collaborative world, this masterpiece that we can create together, needs to be on that mission to help lift that veil and help others realize the truth about humanity, what we are, where we are, why we are here, and so we can create that planetary civilization and ultimately achieve things that are beyond the imaginations of most people here. So my friends, if you like my work, if you like what I talk about, if you like my channel, please like and subscribe. It helps, it spreads on the algorithm. It's what makes these videos go forth as catalysts. So please do that. And if you ever feel like you've learned something or gotten something from my videos, consider supporting on Patreon, because right now we're having a video called Drilling into Hell. So when you support on Patreon, you get access to secret videos. The secret video today, which is occurring in just a few minutes, is Drilling into Hell. It's going to be an interesting one. And if you choose all the cheapest options, it's only like $5 a month if you choose the cheapest options, and it helps out a lot. Really does. It's why I'm able to do what I do. So big shout out to everyone who supports, especially Philanthropist, Zach, Renaissance Fairy, Cassidy, Michael, Angela, Maria, Top of the World, Ethan, DB, and Joel. The link will be right over here to support on Patreon, or you can also help by hitting join on right below this YouTube video on YouTube. Thank you very much.